I always forget I have something interesting to say.
Yeah.
Because I'm not a big, again, that's why I'm not on social media. Like, I don't like talking about myself. I'm not like a...
No, it's an interesting aspect of both of you is you're both very humble, but other people are interested in what you are up to.
Welcome to Empire State of Grind, a podcast about the people building the next wave of tech startups in and out of New York City. Please be advised that the hosts of this podcast are practicing lawyers or other professionals in the tech industry, and that some of the guest employers on this podcast may be clients of the hosts. The information and content provided during this podcast are for informational purposes only and should not be construed as legal or financial advice, or as the positions or stances of the employers of any of the individuals.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Empire State of Grind, the show where we learn about the people building the next wave of tech startups in and out of New York City. On today's episode, we are doing something a little different. We have previous guests, Albert Wang and Daniel Langer, back in the studio to catch us up on how they and their startups are doing. We're going to learn about different aspects of being a founder, like fundraising, and discuss some of the successes and challenges they've each faced this past year. But before we dive in, I'd like to make a small request to you, the audience. However you are listening to this, please click the subscribe button, leave some comments, and consider sharing with your like-minded friends and colleagues. As is the common theme with the guests we bring on the show, we are looking to build something big ourselves. Thanks for listening, and let's dive in.
Thanks, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Empire State of Grind, the show where we meet the people building the next wave of tech startups in and out of New York City. This is a special and different episode today. We're bringing back two former guests. We have Daniel Langer and Albert Wang here, and we're going to do a little catching up and have some topical conversation. So as a reminder, Albert is the co-founder and CEO of Bearworks, a virtual sales floor productivity platform and parallel dialer. And Daniel is the co-founder of Trackstar, which is the first universal API for warehouse management systems. If you need more info about the companies, look them up or go back to our previous episodes with them. But gentlemen,
I'll tell you more.
Awesome. Thanks for coming back. How are you?
You just missed us. That's why you're having us back.
Obviously.
Yeah.
So much fun.
This is the only way they'll catch up with me is if I promise to promote their businesses.
We have to be in a studio to talk.
Exactly. So welcome back. Starting off spring here in New York. How you guys feeling?
I'm gonna get some sun.
Yeah. So I do want to catch up, but maybe like just as a little bit of a check-in, I think people are interested, like what do founders do? What has your week been like so far with the business?
I think it seems like we've both had weeks. So last week I was at a conference called Shop Talk in Vegas, which is a big
cool
e-commerce, commerce tech conference, classic expo hall.
You sponsor attendee?
We just attendee, we didn't get a booth. So we just spent the week, chasing leads.
Pounding
the pavement, meeting as many people in a day. So this week has been
following up,
and then all the meetings that we couldn't have last week, we have this week. So it's a big catching up.
Yeah.
Plus, we have all these new hot leads that we're chasing.
That's good. So it was a good conference.
It was a good conference.
Yeah.
It's a commerce conference where all the booths are different commerce tech, and a lot of the attendees are people at brands who are buying the commerce tech, right? So you're at Under Armour, you go attend, learn all the newest and greatest things.
It's the conference for e-com.
Yeah, and so the booths are like the big players like Shopify and Klaviyo, Attentive, all the companies building tech for brands. But the exhibitors are all trying to get the people at the brands to come to their booths, right? So they're hunting badges, oh, do you work at a brand? Let me tell you about this tech that your brand can use. Whereas we're not selling to brands. We're selling to other software companies that need integrations.
Right.
So we're just going booth to booth, hey, do you need integrations? Tell us
so the
about
sponsors are your
our
targets.
customers. Exactly.
Yeah,
So it's
funny.
really nice to not have to do this badge hunting versus we can just go to all the booths. And we've been in market for a few years now, which we can talk more about how time in market has really been interesting. But we know a lot of people now, and we're starting to be more known. So
Nice.
it was a great conference. It's generally a solid lead gen for us.
Yeah,
Big presence. Just
they're all together.
Have you guys out there, or
It's just my co-founder and I who go.
it's exhausting, right?
But it's,
Like walking-
3 days of just,
Yeah, I go to Vegas to play poker, and I'm exhausted when I'm done.
yeah.
So what's your week been like?
I mean, so we just had an event last night. So it was a long day.
Shout out, I was there. It was fun. It
was great.
Really
Yeah.
good networking also.
Good videos coming out. And then we're actually sponsoring our first event in 2 weeks. So
Oh, cool.
It's a full booth. We're flying 3 people out there.
Oh, in Vegas,
In
right?
Vegas as well.
Yeah, Albert asked me where to stay. So I was like,
Osmo.
yeah, I was like, you're asking the wrong guy. Man.
Circus is for her. It's a startup.
Yeah, I'm like, dude, do not stay at Circus.
Stay at the Luxor.
I told him that.
Anyway, so we're getting ready to do that, getting demo certified and training. Right before this, I was checking our lead scanner. There's so many details running an event. Like you got logistics, make sure your flyers are printed out, and then we're also doing a bunch of so we're talking right before this. We're trying to launch some new initiatives, and like in my spare time, I'm like trying to build out some stuff with AI, just a prototype and stuff like that. So
Cool.
so it's kind of bouncing around.
One thing I did want to ask you guys about, I find this interesting. I think our audience does too. Like, you have these businesses. How does raising money work with like budgeting and kind of runway? How do you look at that, and how big of like a factor does it play in decisions? Or like, I know you said, hey, we're kind of looking, I won't put words in your mouth, but like sound like you're taking the path of like, we're actually seeking profitability before maybe another investment.
Yeah.
Did that change how you are budgeting and road mapping?
So, yeah, we want to get profitable because we want to control our own destiny as a company, right? As soon as you're profitable, you have infinite runway. That's not perfect.
Theoretically.
Not perfect science, but it's a whole lot different than
No, it's a different model.
constantly being at
Yeah.
12 months of runway. And so like we decided that we think that's like an amazing achievement as a company, and that it gives us so much more flexibility. And it ultimately allows us to raise our next round completely on our terms. I think we don't want to raise a Series A on our back foot and get bad terms.
Yeah.
That's not good.
Is part of that decision making like the industry you're in, that it's like there are less competitors, or like do you know what I mean? Because a lot of time people take on investment because it's like to get
Grow at all costs.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe. I mean, we're not fighting a competitive space like AI sales tools,
Right.
right? There's no, not trying to
No.
ruffle. There's a lot of folks doing things. in
No,
that
that's why I
space.
brought it up. Yeah, it's a
Right.
different.
We have competition, but no one is also trying to build the exact same product as us. And so we've carved out this piece in the market where it's us or build in-house, right? It's you build in-house or use Trackstar, or you don't build these integrations at all. So like we've carved this thing out, and so we're just taking up the market, and we can do that effectively with our team, and we don't need to go raise a bonkers Series A and, try to hit these metrics or else, right? Like once you get on that Series A flywheel, like you have to meet all these metrics, or you're going to, there's exiting above a hefty Series A valuation is so hard.
Right.
It's easy to raise at an $80 million easy. It's not easy, but it's way easier to raise at an $80 million valuation than it is to sell for $80 million. Right. It's 100 times easier.
Right.
That's a really good point.
Maybe 1,000 times easier
Yeah.
to raise, you can raise at 100 million. Again, it's really hard, but it's
No, I think you're right.
it's
There's more
impossible
potential
to
investors
sell
than buyers.
for $100 million. Like there's, it's that's to me a true unicorn, not the $1 billion valuation. It's still impressive, but anyway, so all that to say is if you take on, a $15 million Series A, you have to be so confident with whatever confidence you can have that, yeah, we can hit the metrics we think we can hit to be able to outgrow this valuation.
Or desperate. You need the money and you just got to take the terms, which is what you're saying you're avoiding.
Yeah, we're avoiding that. And it's not one size fits all. There's plenty of people that are saying like, no, you should.
It's very personal.
Like, maybe you're not growing fast enough. Maybe, I don't know. But like, we have a growing business and we know what we want to do. And
no, I totally get it. I thought the same way about the things I'm doing. Like, I limit my upside in a business where I'm the service, right? Like, the time I can spend taps out.
Yeah.
But I like that pace. And like you're saying, I don't need to, in my world, I don't need to employ people, which feels a lot safer and more comfortable. What about you? You're
the only difference,
in a different side.
Well, the main difference, I think, is just that, like, since our space is hot, like multiple spaces are hot, I have to worry about being undercapitalized. So, like, the threat of, sure, maybe somebody raises $20 million more than me. That's not a big deal. But somebody could come in being $100 million more.
Right. They just have more resources.
Just so much more capitalized.
Space, yeah.
So it's been something we're figuring out, right? So I think my thought process is the seed is to figure out what the product is, get as much de-risked as possible before the A. Because once you're at the A, like you said, you're on a treadmill, you got to figure this out. So you want to know what's scalable.
And just a reminder, what stage are your respective companies at?
Pre-seed seed.
Okay.
I think the other dimension also that you didn't talk about is valuation metrics in the market. I think there's a simple way to think about it is raise when you can, right? If it's the right valuation, the right time, someone's going to give you free money.
Right. You find $100 on the ground, you take it.
I don't know if I agree with that.
Yeah.
You're diluting your company, and more money doesn't mean you're more likely to be successful.
Fair. I think
could be the opposite, actually, because when you have less money and your back's against the wall, you're scrappier. You figure more things out. Like, you have that fear.
That I agree with.
I totally agree.
If you have $30 million in the bank, you're like, whatever.
I have a friend, and we used to be real estate partners. I'll shout him out, Steve. He runs a good business now, and one thing he has taught me is, like, money only solves money problems. So you need to know if this issue can be addressed by adding more capital, or, to your point, is it something that money isn't the solution? And if you're thinking about it wrong and just throw money at it, now you've increased the problem because you haven't solved the problem and you're you're in debt over it.
Right. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make bigger changes, things that move the needle. Like, we've got some core business that's working, but like we said earlier, like, AI is completely upending our world, and so, like, nobody knows what it's going to look like a year from now. So we've got our core business, but we're also doing a bunch of focused tests. And so I think the hard part is, how do you know when these tests work, and do we double down on that? Bring fire.
Did you get approached a lot for investment, or how does that aspect even look?
I mean, we're just kind of saying, hey, we're heads down and stuff like this, right?
People reach out to you guys?
We get reached out all the time, not necessarily saying, like, we want to put money in you now, but so many VCs are like, hey, we're catching up with so-and-so and you got brought up. Like, what's the latest? Can we catch up? Yeah. And my co-founder deals with all that, but we usually say we're not taking meetings right now, but there are a few that we nurture. But yeah, all the time. But it's not to give us money. It's just to keep the thread going. And
so investors deal with information, right? And so they realize, hey, look, this founder started at this company, or he worked at a company I'm interested in. And so, like, in sales, they're just like mass researching, semi-automated fashion, semi-manual fashion. So,
well, yeah, one thing that's been cool for me is learning more about kind of like the actual VC aspect of startups. Because when I got to Datadog, it was Series D, and we never took on another investment. Not my specialty anyway, but obviously in legal, I would have learned something about it because we'd adjust a cap table or something. And what I've learned, like, working with, and really more just sitting next to Albert now and then, is he'll take me to events, and early on, I felt like everyone was kissing his ass at this one event, and I didn't get it. You're just aloof, man. You don't.
VCs?
It was like, it was mostly a lot of founders and stuff, and what I realized was like the pedigree that both of you have now is not as common as it sounds with people who are starting businesses. So I'm meeting a lot of founders too now, right? And it's like, if you're a first-time founder, you've never run a business, you've never been part of a successful business, I'm going to be way less confident in believing in your vision versus like you guys have built products that people know and use and buy. I feel like I got like a professional MBA at Datadog, so I'm sure, you have a real one, but.
Did you see that there's a Forbes article about all the Datadog France team, like most startups ever or something like this?
No.
Yeah, it was like, there's like 10
Well, ironically,
or 15
they all owned their own business first.
Oh, really?
Well, who are you talking about?
It was like 6 months ago or something like this. It was like a bunch of PMs and some engineers, and there's it's like 15 startups coming out of Datadog.
I didn't see that article.
And it completely ignored all the US teams. So, because there's regularly these are the places.
More rare in France. That's the reason.
That's
I just think it's interesting that there's some companies that are like very entrepreneurial, right? PayPal, Yelp, Palantir,
Correct, yeah.
Right? And so that's, I think, why the investors were coming to us. Like, oh, hey, look, you
1,000%.
I think that's part of it, but I think
I'm saying I didn't realize it, and then I saw it and was like, oh, when I think about it, that actually makes sense.
But VCs also don't have true differentiation. It's
right.
all they have is branding, and if you like them. Because otherwise, it's just capital.
I'll take a different position.
That might be a little.
It's a tough game.
I'm not saying it's easy, but
I think in private equity, there's so many different levers you can have. Right? There's obviously introductions, blah blah blah, but there's also like your portfolio network. Right? There could be either advising in terms of GTM or.
I love our lead investor. Amazing. Great people. But they aren't the thing that makes or breaks the business.
Right. Of course.
Maybe their money is.
No,
but their advising and their connections, that's not.
It's funny.
You have to do the work. You still have to do the work.
It's you.
Right.
It's you.
Some people could say like that's a cynical take, but I actually think the right way of saying it is like you're not giving them more agency than they deserve. I still got to make this happen, regardless of who I team up with, is a responsible 100%. Way to run a company.
They help, and they've been a huge help. But most of a VCs, they only have so much they can differentiate.
That's a better way of saying it.
I think that's really what it is.
They're not going to make or break you.
They're not going to make or break your business. But a huge part of their differentiation is their relationship with you. You're going to pick, at the end of the day, the person you like working with.
Right,
100%.
And so I think that's why most these VCs are probably really, obviously your pedigree is, upper echelon, but VCs generally suck up to founders.
For sure.
Tough game.
I may have mistold this story a little bit. It was more like, as I'm learning about it, I never had thought about like the real world implication of that, like you invest in the person. Then I started seeing it a lot. And then I said, why is that? And I go, that's what I would do too. Cause it's like, it's the same reason anyone would hire me. It's not because of what I'm telling you I will do. It's because you know what I have done and respect it and want me to do it again with you, which is great. And then to your point, 100% it's do we get along? And what I think is interesting for me is that as a lawyer where I'm saying like I'm well aware that like my time is a cap on the business, I'm a little careful about who I select to work with as they are with me, because I want this relationship to grow and last. And I look at it like, if I commit to working with Albert, does that stop me from being able to commit to work with Daniel? And is it worth it? So I don't look at it all as interchangeable. And I think it's smart, knowing what business you have, to look at things differently in that regard, because I'm capped and I can't have a bad opportunity cost over the money is interchangeable. but the time I spend, the people I work with are
People,
not.
relationships.
Yeah, exactly. And then what I've always found is, you guys will agree, but it's hard to convince people of it sometimes, is that talking about it like that, I connect with the right people. Like if that message doesn't resonate with a client, you just think lawyers are interchangeable, go find someone cheaper.
Yeah. See how that goes.
Well, maybe for them, that is how it'll work better for them. If you do not think that way and think I bring something unique, then like we're just talking about what my value should be, not like in the market or whatever. And then I feel very confident I'm working with the right people. They'll trust me more. I can give you a better product.
We're going to take a short break to hear from one of our sponsors, but when we come back, we'll learn about the growth and changes to Bearworks and Trackstar since the founders were last on the show, and how the AI boom has affected each business.
This episode is brought to you by NextGen Law. NextGen Law supports today's modern tech companies, bringing expertise in drafting and negotiating customer contracts and scaling of go-to-market legal functions. For more information, visit nextgenlaw.com. That's nextgenlaw with hyphens in between each word.com.
So here's a question for both of you guys.
Yeah.
Right? Do you guys feel like you go into, like, what's your split between maker time and manager time? Right? Like, how much of your time is spent like bouncing around, dealing with like fires and stuff, as opposed to like saying, hey, look, I'm just going to block this out and get the shit I want done. Right? Like, is it like during work hours, after work hours? Like, when can you get in the zone?
I think most of my time is running around, reactionary, dealing with things.
Has it changed over time?
Yeah, it ebbs and flows, but right now, we've just we have the most customers ever,
Nice.
as we
Awesome.
hopefully should,
Yeah,
as
yeah,
we
yeah.
grow.
Congrats.
And so I'm the first
Adapting.
line of customer support,
Oh, really?
which I think I think it's still the right thing
Yeah,
at
yeah,
this
yeah.
stage, because I have relationships with these customers.
Yeah.
Our ACVs are pretty high, so like I think it's good for now.
How many customers do you have?
Approaching 50.
That's awesome.
And like, yeah, and we're starting to be able to go up market more, and because we have maturity, both product and brand, and I kind of mentioned this time in market thing.
One thing I did want to do is like catch up from like, you were on, we probably did our original interview almost a year ago.
Yeah,
So
I think it was June or July.
yeah, whereas like, how's the company grown since then? People wise or customer wise, products?
Yeah, so the main ways we've grown are product and brand wise. Our product is what Plaid did for banking to make it really easy to connect into banks if you're a software company. So like Venmo, when you connect your bank to Venmo,
Right.
you pick
Plaid's
your
in
bank.
the background. Yeah.
We have that, but for supply chain systems, and our core product so far has been that for these warehouse systems. And so when we started, we had zero, obviously, right? So for a long time, we were building this product, convincing people to use us, and we had no integrations. Like, I don't know how we ever sold our first customer. You know, like we didn't have anything, and then we had 1 and 2 and 5, and for a long time, it was like, okay, like talk to us when we're at 50. Like, we don't want it, you know, you're nobody.
Right, but how do you get there?
And we convinced our first few customers, and we built these integrations for them. And we look back, and it's been 2 years, and we're at 75, like approaching 100
Integrations.
And that's a lot. Of, you know,
So that means
it's a lot
other
of work.
systems that you guys can connect to via this API.
Yes.
Okay.
Right. So you can use us, and you can connect to 75 and growing warehouse systems. And our sell is no longer. We don't have
Trust us to build it.
Right,
you have it.
We
Yeah.
don't have the objection anymore of, oh, you don't have enough systems, or we already have some of them. We have overlap.
Yeah.
We don't have that anymore. That's just gone.
Awesome.
So it's shifted.
It's
changed.
shifted completely. And so now when we go talk to a customer, they don't even question our ability to cover what they need. You know, there's a whole set of new objections with anything, but that is gone. And so now we're able to talk to people and customers that we could have never approached before, larger customers, you know, enterprises, because we have that product maturity.
Nice.
Our-
When do you
main-
feel like that inflection point hit?
Good question. I think within the last 6 months. And there's, I think, this broader feeling of we have a form of product market fit.
Yeah.
We went through YC, and there's this analogy that YC gives of when you start your startup, you're pushing a boulder uphill.
Right.
And you're just pushing, and you're like, man, this sucks. Like, I don't know if this is working. You just keep pushing. And at some point, if you figure things out, you get to a top, and you go from pushing the boulder to chasing the boulder. And like
That makes a lot of sense.
You're no longer pushing this boulder. This boulder is moving down the hill, and you're just like, oh crap, I gotta.
It's also a good problem to have, right? Like,
yeah. And I don't think I'm fully chasing the boulder yet, but I think like the boulder is starting to get away from us a little bit.
Nice.
Which is good.
yeah, just for the reason we say it's good is this is the problem of keeping up with demand.
Yes.
That any business would die to have.
Yeah. So I think we're getting to that point, and we're building some adjacent products and just starting to sell that. And I think it's just taken time. So
when you were building out these integrations, did you always think that, oh, if we just get to some inflection point, we get some coverage, it's going to get better?
I don't know. It's people always ask us, oh, what % of the market do you think you have? And we don't know. It's very like we hear new names all the time.
Yeah, there's
custom
so
systems.
many. Yeah.
So I know like you were dealing with kind of solving what the legacy problem, right, of all these systems. Do you see, like, is that problem not as prevalent with newer businesses? Like, do they not architect in a way that needs a Trackstar, or is it still like everything's all over the place and they need you more than ever?
No, it's at least in like our world, it's just about if you need to connect to these systems. Like if you need to get inventory or order data or all these pieces of info living inside of a physical warehouse, you're either building those yourselves or you're using someone like us.
But no one's built like a system that just has it all and there's no need to connect them, or?
No, I mean, it's a fragmented market.
Right. Okay.
That's the main reason we exist, is the market is so fragmented, right?
And that hasn't changed. That's all I'm asking.
There's not consolidation. Like different warehouses use different systems. They're like, oh, we store cold frozen things, so we need to use this software because it specializes in frozen tech. I don't know. I made that up. So it's not consolidating.
Cool.
It's just like the number of banks, I don't think it's consolidating, right? So same idea.
And what about like employee count? Have you guys made a bunch of hires in the past like 7-8 months?
We've stayed pretty lean.
Okay.
We're trying to get profitable. Just that is our goal, is we want to control our own destiny. So we're getting closer to being profitable. We've used contractors.
Onshore, offshore?
Onshore. All of our engineering is full time. But for non-tech things like operations and marketing, and
right.
we're starting to do like content push. We're using agencies and contractors.
Maybe legal, wink, wink.
Yeah, we have not in
okay.
Founder-led sales? Sales-led motion, founder-led sales?
It's all been founder-led sales so far.
Cool. And what about Bearworks? You were our first guest, so
yeah.
And we share office space, so I know for a fact.
Still see your lovely face.
I was trying to ask how things are going.
It's been crazy. So it's been a year, right? So we've seen some seasonality in the business, right? End of the year, budgets reset. And so last year, I think when we were talking, sales was tough. People were still getting riffed. People were contracting. And then towards the end of last year, it started booming again. Everyone was hiring and all this kind of stuff. And then what's interesting is in the last month, the mood has shifted a lot, actually, just talking to founders and it's like so many conversations that people are having trouble buying. It's still going to the committee and stuff like this. So I think we're in this middle inflection. It'll be interesting what happens next. So business has been growing. We've got 10 people full-time now, 4 in New York City. The remainders are in North America or Western Europe. We're doing around a few million dials a month. So pretty good volume. I think product is just mostly matured, right? So that's been easier. Hardest thing for us, actually, so we actually hired a bunch of sales folks and marketing. And because I'm selling to salespeople, like the expectation, like, hey, time to start a trial. Let's time to close out the trial. So we're mostly sales-led motion. And still kind of an evolution, right? So for better or for worse, we're following a seat-based pricing. I think like that's going to change. Like, I think we have to move to some kind of consumption-based model.
Why are you saying that?
I think so the good and the bad of the space that we're in is like AI for everything is hot. AI for sales is especially hot. So people are willing to try. But then what's notorious in, I don't know if it's like a seat-based model or a sales model, people overbuy. And so, actually just last night we heard this great story where Datadog will actually monitor their licenses. And if you don't use your license in like X days, you might get revoked, right? Which makes sense, right? You're paying for something you're not
100%.
using. So even if you explain it to somebody that, oh, you're only going to pay for what you use, the hard part is like, how do you forecast what your usage is?
100%.
Or is it something that they're used to? So like, we've wanted to move into a consumption. We've like tested the waters here, but like, it's hard to change an industry. So I'm curious, how do you guys price? It's consumption based, right?
It's purely based on how many like connections you make.
Yeah.
But the actually beautiful thing about
Connections like calls they make to different systems? Or?
Even simpler. So when someone goes in and presses like, I want to connect my warehouse, we charge a monthly fee for that connection.
Okay, so it's a monthly fee per system you're talking to,
That's
connecting
connected.
with.
So what's beautiful about it is it's directly in line with our customers' growth.
Right.
Because like our customer has one of their end users connecting a warehouse, it generally means they've onboarded a new customer. So when our customers grow, we grow. And when everyone's growing, they're like, sure, we'll just keep paying you more.
Well, and they're reliant on you for their business is like a huge differentiator. Yeah. That was another, obviously we all worked together at Datadog, and that was a big driver there too. It's funny because in the early days, I saw all the negotiated deals because I was doing them. And I always remember thinking in my head, like, I think I know what our best target customers look like more than the salespeople. They're going after these big companies that are moving to cloud. And what I saw was like, if you get a hot cloud native startup, they can't move off of you fast enough no matter what. Yeah. So now we're just talking about pricing every year. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because you're using more, you want to pay less per unit, but you're not talking about leaving because you can't afford to be down for even a day. That's the whole reason you're on the platform. So
Daniel, I'm curious, do you guys have like, what's your setup process look like? How's onboarding?
We're embedded in their code, right?
So you have to talk to their developers.
We sell an engineering. I mean, so the hardest part about our sales cycle is they have to fit us into the roadmap.
Yeah.
Right. They have to embed. They have to embed the modal in their UI to start allowing connections, and they have to make API calls to us to actually do the thing. So our biggest blocker is always getting the engineering resources, even if it's high priority for them. It's still competing.
And do you charge for that implementation? No. Okay.
We don't charge implementation. We don't charge service fees. We don't charge to build new integrations. We build them, add them to our library, and we just charge these, this SaaS.
Yeah, and part of the reason is because you needed people to say yes so that you could build the product. Yeah.
We don't want to charge, no one, at least in new age SaaS, like you don't want to charge service fees. Like you don't want to charge implementation fees. But there are, I think, obviously exceptions to that, but I think as a traditional B2B SaaS, you want just the recurring revenue.
Do you think it'll be easier that barrier to entry will come down with AI where, you have some weird esoteric e-com, order system. Yeah. It's easier to connect to that because the system will just read your API and just figure out how to connect.
Maybe. I don't know.
You're not seeing it yet.
I spend a low percentage of my time thinking about AI. I'm not the AI
It's funny.
guy.
That's actually one of the topics I wanted to talk about. Is like, what have you been? So it's not. No, it's actually cool and sobering to hear. Like, you have a growing business in this age of AI boom that isn't relying on that at all.
We're a data provider.
Yeah,
So people use us to power and build AI features in their product.
for sure.
But my focus, sure, we maybe, we use a little AI to help here and there. How do we integrate here? This isn't making
But it's
sense.
not in your product.
It's not in our product is we provide data. So we're powering plenty of companies who are using AI with our data, but no, we are not an AI product. And I'm cool with that.
I think it is cool. My business I use it a little, but the companies I support are all pretty bullish on it. And like a lot of the products are just application layer AI products. So I've been forced to learn more about it, which is fun.
Yeah.
But I know Bearworks has been kind of the opposite story, right? You've been integrating some AI features and products.
So we started with a dialer. And about this time last year, we added this like generative AI voicemail thing. So it can take your voice, it clones it, and so you can leave a personalized voicemail. And we kind of built this as kind of like a fun little gee whiz prototype. And what happened since then was people were like, oh, this is really cool. Can I do more with it? And so what we've actually taken it to is we evolved it into a virtual sales coach that you can talk to, and you pitch against it, and it gives you objections that you know about in real time. And what's happened is in our space, like AI is on fire because we're at the application layer. And that's still something I'm still wrestling with. It's that, in this world where there's so much venture coming in and, we're fighting against tons of competitors that have tons of funding, right? And they can just saturate the market with mind share or whatever. What is real, what's not, right? I think now that I'm playing with it, I think there's a lot of really cool applications. I think I'm a believer. Like just last week, I was playing around with this, I guess, remote operator. Right, so it's like, okay, you can use your browser.
Computer,
it can fill out your shopping cart, keep your grocery list all automatically for you. It can like research your. Okay, so if you're at a conference, it can follow up with your leads, research that kind of stuff. And it's still pretty bad. Like Mike called it. Gersten Haber was like, oh, it's like a fun little tech demo and something like that. But you can see it's getting so much better every single month, and so. Like, I think you're at a great place where if you don't have this huge headcount, right, you can afford to change because, like, I don't know what's going to happen to GTM as a function. I don't know what's going to happen to, like, right, if you can just...
I feel like a lot of this doom and gloom of it taking over is like just, I don't know,
I'm not saying it's going to take over.
I'm not saying you're saying that.
Your job will change.
We're taking a short break, and when we come back, we'll discuss some of the tactics founders use to market their businesses and how social media plays into the game of growth.
You mentioned you have better branding awareness, right? Does it feel like you know more to players? It gets easier, like, oh, I've seen this face before. And
yeah. Time in market has been huge for us. Both knowing more people knowing us. Our entire customer base up until very recently was just through word of mouth.
I was going to say, do you get a lot of referrals or?
Yeah, like we don't get traditional inbound, but we get people talking about us to other people. And
right.
And so it's been pretty much all referrals and word of mouth and networking conferences.
Are you nurturing? So you like have like customer dinners and cabs and stuff like that?
We don't do customer dinners.
That's actually a topic I wanted to bring up because I know we're all running a business where marketing. Like, what are some new marketing initiatives you are doing? So, conferences. It sounds like
conferences has been since kind of.
But that's
since
more
day one.
sales, not marketing, right?
Marketing. We've started playing the LinkedIn game. I don't know how else to put it. Like it's a
Dude,
game.
I do it.
Up until what?
Tell us more.
I mean, up until recently, I've been completely not off the grid, but I'm not a post. I don't post. Like I haven't been
Bro,
on
those of us who are friends with you have no idea what you're doing most of the time.
Yeah.
So it's like, this is just true.
Yeah. Well, I'm not on social
Like
media.
if I tease like, oh, Daniel's going to be on the show, they're like, what the hell is he up to? I'm like, I don't really know. I'll find out.
I'm not on social media. Like I've been off
Right.
Instagram for a couple years. I'm off Twitter now because it got way too. Not that I was ever, but again, I got off social media, so I wasn't public. I wasn't trying to hide.
No. Yeah.
I just think those
your head's down building.
business platforms. I got really tired of them, and I thought they became pretty. I think they're kind of toxic. But anyway,
So now you're in the game.
well, I mean, look, running a company,
It's
it's a game.
For
Like,
100%.
Our
man.
startup is a game.
Well, it's curious because my audience is all salespeople on LinkedIn all day.
Yeah.
100%.
It's important to what you do,
I mean,
right?
anyone,
So,
I think LinkedIn has become a huge social platform.
right.
It always,
No,
always
it's
has
turned.
been, but
I
it's
totally
turned.
agree. It's
It's
not
Facebook
business.
for grown-ups.
Yeah. And so I'm like, all right, like I got to try everything in my power to
It's
grow
your
my
persona.
company.
Your persona's on there. It's working.
Yeah, I think
It's my responsibility to try it, and it's working. It's only been
course.
2-3 weeks, and we've already gotten big companies reaching out to us that we
Amazing.
booked meetings with because of these posts.
so. What are the specific things that you're doing now that you
So
weren't
we
before?
hired like a mini agency. There's this YC guy who started.
That's a good idea.
Well, he sold his company to Twitter, partially because of his branding and marketing that he did, and he realized, oh, like I know how to play this game,
Right.
and
And I have access to founders.
and so I think it's mostly been YC companies has taken on as clients to help
cool.
shape content strategy.
Smart idea.
Some ghostwriting, that whole thing.
Yeah.
And he gets it. And it's a few of them, and they just get it.
Nice.
And so
So did he reach out to me or you reached out to
that's
me?
funny. Yeah. No, that's all me.
Okay.
Funny.
And so yeah, it's been and he kind of talks about this combination of you do posts for you and you do altruistic posts.
Right.
Right? You don't want to just talk about yourself. You want to say things that people are interested in or can learn from, but then
Yep.
you also need to talk about your business. Like that's what you have to do.
Right.
And so it's a mix of all of that, and you just be consistent. Again, it's only been 2-3 weeks, but goal is 2 to 3 posts a week, mix it up, try different things, and just build a brand.
Personal
Yeah.
brand. Yeah.
Yeah.
And my brand is intertwined with the company. So
Yeah.
it's both
For sure.
brands. It's not natural to me. Like every time it hits post, I'm like, oh,
What about your feelings on social media?
I think you had a great point, right? Like we've been doing it in this industry for long enough. We have a point of view.
yeah.
I think the challenge is, there's a lot of influencers on social that are either always super positive or hyping it up. Oh yeah, we just hit 1 million, blah, blah, blah. And like, we're both product people. So we always want to just like keep our heads down and build
Yeah.
and not like,
Yeah.
so that's what's counter. But like, if you don't have a business, you're dead. And so it's important to at least share and communicate what you've been up to. And just making the posts is helpful to say that you're still alive. And naturally you have something interesting to talk about, right? You talk about whatever, the business, social media, positive, sharing a podcast or anything like that.
I think that's been the interesting thing is I always forget I have something interesting to say.
Yeah.
Because I'm not a big, again, that's why I'm not on social media. Like I don't like talking about myself. I'm not like a.
No, it's an
posting.
interesting aspect of both of you is you're both very humble, but
Yeah.
other people are interested in what you are up to.
Like we have unique perspectives.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, you're right. And like we are so in the level of detail that we know about our respective industries and products is very uncommon. And people want to know, I guess. And it's not a natural,
Yeah.
it's not a natural thing.
No, I totally get it.
Because it's like a broadcast mechanism, right?
Little bit.
You're not having a conversation.
It's not a conversation.
Like, yeah.
So we talked about some of the marketing stuff, but what are you guys doing like event wise? And do you find that, are you starting to sponsor? Are you attending and speaking? Like you're saying you're doing this media push, right? Like what else are you doing? And You're attending an event or sponsoring an event for the first time?
So we're hosting. We've been now that I have a team. Finally, we're sponsoring, hosting events with some regularity. We're sponsoring, I think, 3 to 4 events this year.
What is the event you're sponsoring? What's driving you to do it?
Yeah. So now that our business is more mature, so we're targeting kind of sales professionals, BDR directors, SDR directors. And so we're sponsoring a conference at Outreach in June. We're going to Vegas for a call center conference. We just did one last night about just having sales folks in New York. We had a lot of founders come out. And so we're still figuring out our footing. I think trying to make it more of a community and all this kind of stuff. But like putting on a high production quality event is a ton of work. So
for sure,
I think it's starting to work. The hard challenge is just our time, right, and bandwidth and stuff like this.
And what about you? Have you been? No, you're still behind the curtain.
We go to a few conferences a year that are like the big commerce and supply chain conferences as attendees, and that's it. We haven't experimented with other.
What about like speaking or even stuff like this, like other media outlets?
I think there's been a couple random, but it's not like a campaign.
Gotcha.
Going on.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm trying to, but it's mostly me just saying yes to things I might have been like.
I don't get asked a lot. But
that's because you're not. That's because you're not on LinkedIn.
Yeah,
I am now. Do you feel a burden?
It's not as big as like. In what sense? Burden to the team.
Just that you have this company and it's all on your
burden
shoulders.
or obligation.
I use the word burden, I think maybe on purpose.
Yeah, no.
I think
it's a good question.
So where I feel right now, like the burden is actually mostly opportunity cost, and are we moving quickly enough? I think our team is still small enough, and like we don't have that much infrastructure yet. That like I think we're moving relatively quickly. It's not as fast as it feels like a one person startup, and we just move really quickly. But I don't know. You feel there's
you use burden versus obligation, and I just feel like I have a lot of weight on my shoulders as a founder of a company.
I think it's important you feel that way personally.
Yeah,
like other people are. It shouldn't be too much. Like, they're relying on you. They have jobs or whatever, but people can go get other jobs. But you should feel a responsibility that isn't the same as an employee.
It's like 4-pronged, though. It's my customers.
Yeah.
It's my investors. It's my employees. It's my co-founder. It's myself.
So
it's just a lot. Like,
there's a lot
of prongs versus.
Yeah.
I always look at things as like there's never the perfect amount of like the emotion or caring or whatever. There's only too little or too much. And I would far as whatever my relationship is with you, customer, employee, investor, I'd rather you feel the burden a little too much than too less. Do you know what I mean? So I look at it as it's a good thing. I feel that way with clients for sure.
I feel it most with customers, especially now because we have customers paying us like a decent amount of money. But maybe it's also a little pride. Like I want our product.
That's what I'm saying. It's a good thing. Like you can't have too much, and like when you do, maybe the things to work on for like this is the lessons I've learned is like how to manage it mentally, but it shouldn't be how to feel zero. Like how to be indifferent to it is like these things are the motivation for success, in my opinion. It's just how do I not let it like bother me on the weekend or if I go on vacation or whatever.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I agree. I'm not trying to decompartmentalize or push it away, but it's just there.
So I think a couple of years ago, I had this conversation with one of my lead investors, and they're like, fundamentally, the startup is about knowing who you are and knowing your biases and compensating, right? Mm-hmm. So the thing I know about myself is I've like modeled my burn and like runway 3 ways to Sunday. And I'm still like, oh, I forgot this scenario or something like that, right? So I know, at current burn what we're looking like, and we're good, right? I think I'm curious, like, so the difference is my wife has a startup, I have 2 kids, and so the burden I face is more. Yeah. So it's like it's the opportunity cost of what we're doing. Like I'm always worried that like I want this thing to be effing huge. I just hope the burden is, can we live up to my, like what I want it to get to in a proper time or proper quality scope?
I mean, that's the burden to yourself and what you think and know you could achieve.
And that's what I'm saying. When I hear it, I like hearing it, because when someone's too brash or doesn't worry about it, especially like their impact on their family and stuff, those are the people I worry about. I'm not worried about the people who are concerned. I'm worried about the people who are not concerned. And they're out there too.
Yeah.
And, like at all costs, without thinking about anyone else. Like I said, there's too little or too much. Like that's too little. You got to care.
Well, like YC has like a founder support thing, right? Where like the other founders can take a support network or whatever.
Plenty of YC.
What kind of contact do you have like with your cohort or YC this far out?
That's a good question. So one of the big parts of YC is when you get in, you're like added to this intranet like community that your forums and guides and all these things you have for life. And it's, people are constantly posting in it and asking things. So you're in this forum and you have the ability to ask for anything basically. And, you have this huge resource at your fingertips. So when we run into, blockers or we don't know something, we can post there and like 1 million people jump on and be like, oh, I'll DM you.
So network, we still have access to our group partners, the people that run YC.
But it's a huge group, right? Like the diversity amongst founders is quite big. So everyone's coming from different backgrounds.
YC doesn't have a magic wand to make a startup successful. If they did, they would be telling you how to do it, right? Like there's not a secret recipe. They've worked with so many companies that they just have developed
it's like experience.
AI. They've developed heuristics. Like they just know generally in the aggregate what generally works and doesn't work.
Yeah, we've seen this play out 100 times. This is more successful.
Here's what we generally see. Don't know if it's going to work or not, but like go try it and like we'll be objective in our feedback and you tell us how things went and we'll help you decipher that.
Do you use it a lot?
Now, I mean, during the batch, that was like the big, for 3 months, you're getting daily.
I do mean now, because we spoke about it last time you were on, and
we're not getting that type of feedback from YC now. It's really during the batch, and then a little bit here and there as you mature. And we still ask our partners questions once in a while, and they help us with things, but it's not on a regular cadence. There are some companies that I'm sure do, but we don't.
Sorry, but so before we get out of here, like, why don't we learn a little about what's in the near future for both Bearworks and Daniel?
Sure. So I guess we're excited about AI. So we're testing out a bunch of AI sales coaching, sales training things to prepare people. So
and I know more than most on it. It's a cool idea because I do know tons of people in sales. Obviously, I support, and like the idea of coaching and honestly just getting in reps of like objections and how to deal with them is what
you haven't
every
even seen the
successful
latest.
sales.
We've gone off the deep end like 3 times. Like there's like a slide deck, and then I went off and built a little more. So
I'm a little guilty of using this as the only way to catch up with people. So maybe I need to.
So I think, it's a good question. What is next?
Well, just like you're saying, what are you working on now that I'm not saying in 10 years what's next. Like,
I think it's just hopefully just executing, right? Are we able to execute fast enough? I think that's the hardest part.
You have new products rolling out. You're
New products,
doing more
new
marketing.
GDM, testing, stuff like this, more maturity, polish.
Love that.
And what about for Trackstar and then the near term?
Well, right now we're going through SOC 2. Have you had to do that yet?
Type 1.
Type 2.
Nice.
Well,
That's
both.
fun.
Smart.
Do you have it?
We're type 1, yeah.
No, Type 2.
Not type 2.
Oh.
Yeah.
So what they're talking about are these security audits. When you sell software, I can speak from experience. It's very helpful to have them, especially in certain industries or with larger clients.
Yeah.
They're not trusting you with their data without these things.
Yeah. So we're doing SOC 2 both types because Type 1 is just like a snapshot, and then Type 2 they like monitor you for a few
Type 2,
months.
yeah.
So we're doing that now, which is very. I know that's not what you were asking when you said what are we up to.
No. This is the stuff.
But finally, we've been holding off on it for as long as possible, and finally, it's actually blocked us from working with people. So we're like, okay.
Yeah, it's funny. On a previous episode, this came up, and I advised everyone to get ahead of it.
Yeah. It's time.
A lot of work.
It's time, money, but we're finally doing it. It feels like the right time, so that's fun. And we're starting to build more verticals in which we're building APIs for. So we've only done warehouse systems for basically 2 years, and we're starting to expand in a couple new areas that should
like adjacent,
like supply chain systems that are again very fragmented, like different freight systems and carrier systems and commerce systems, all of these things where it's just you have to build all these one-off integrations. So we're going to start rolling up more of them.
Cool. So, all right, before we get out then, is there anything you want to shout out? People check you out. Obviously, we'll put everything in the show notes as well, but...
Check me out on LinkedIn.
That's right. Daniel Langer on LinkedIn. New profile picture coming.
Yeah. It's there.
Oh, it's there
I think
already.
I'm wearing this exact outfit.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, I have one outfit.
Yeah, I think if anyone wants to get in on our beta, check out. I've got some cool AI sales prep stuff coming that we haven't announced yet. So.
All right, cool. Well, Albert, Daniel, thanks a lot again for coming back.
Thank you.
It's fun.
Yeah, no, it's always a blast, and we'll catch you guys next time. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Empire State of Grind. If you like what you heard, please share, like, and subscribe. You can find more information about the guests and sponsors in the show notes, and special thanks to our sponsors and our producer, Brian Neiman. We'll be back with new episodes twice a month, and as we say in New York, peace, we out.